Good afternoon. This is Tim Harris with the Harris Real Estate University, and it's the Harris Real Estate University Superstar Interview. If you're attending or listening to in replay a Superstar interview for the first time, here's what it is. It's Harris Real Estate University's giving back to the real estate community. Every Friday, and starting next Friday, guys, because of popular demand, make sure you write this down in your notes. Every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon East Coast time, we conduct a free interview. Now, these interviews can be with a top-producing realtor like today. They can be with a famous author. They can be with somebody from the news. They can be with maybe we've got some politicians actually that we're lining up to speak with that are doing something with housing. Lots of different diverse people. What we really look for, because we do get lots of requests for people to be superstars, but what we look for are people that frankly have the mindset of service. People that are looking truly to help homeowners in this housing market, and specifically, we're looking for people that are willing to share. So you guys will notice on these interviews, I ask tough questions, and we don't hold anything back, and there are no sacred cows. And so those are the rules. Now, if you would like to be considered for a Superstar interview, go to superstarinterview.com, and there's a little application form you can fill out. And while you're there, you can also listen to past Superstar interviews. So just a couple of ground rules before we get started with our guest today. This interview and all of our interviews, these are about you. They're about you, our fellow realtor. They're about helping you, motivate you, educate you, and ultimately get you into action. The way you participate and get the most out of these interviews is you ask questions. If you're on the webinar, which hopefully most of you are, enter your questions into the box during the call. I will use your questions when interviewing the guest. I do have a list of 20 or 30 questions written down in preparation for today's interview, and Sandy and I talked for about 45 minutes prior to this call, preparing for this call to make sure we do a good job. But guess what? We can completely and totally toss out our script if you guys have a lot of great questions to ask. So just understand that this truly is about helping you and giving back. So without any further delay, I want to welcome today's superstar, Harris Real Estate University superstar, Mrs. Sandy Raines. Sandy, welcome to the call.
Thank you very much.
So,
great
guys,
to be here.
A little bit about Sandy, because she's not going to want to toot her own horn, so I'm going to do it for her. Sandy is Wall Street Journal. She was honored as one of Wall Street Journal's top teams in the nation. As a matter of fact, she was recognized as being I believe it was number 75 on their list. Is that correct?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And Sandy is the number one agent in the state of Ohio, number one agent with Real Living, either off sales or volume. And she's literally sold hundreds of homes worth tens of millions of dollars. Now, here's something you guys need to know about Sandy. She's selling in, unquestionably, one of the toughest real estate markets in the nation, Columbus, Ohio. She is actually one of Julie and I's, and was probably one of Julie and I's primary competitors when we sold real estate. Somebody we always had respect for, and occasionally, dare I say, maybe a little fear of.
In a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah, that's nice.
But Sandy, it's because you are honest, you're ethical, and you are, without a doubt, a very aggressive, forward-thinking realtor. So I have this question that I wrote down for you. Sandy, what makes you so good?
Well, that's a good question. I think probably one of the most important things, and in this market more than ever, is keeping a positive mindset and teaching everyone around me to do the same. You just cannot afford to be around negative people today.
That's excellent. So basically, you're constantly monitoring your own thoughts and making sure you're surrounding yourself with people that are also having a positive mindset, not pulling themselves and other people down. I really like that. So
exactly.
You know what? Let's talk about mindset in a second or two, because
Okay.
I know that's something you want to focus on. So how long have you been selling real estate in your market?
I've been in Columbus 11 years, but in real estate altogether since '84, so
okay, got it.
25 years, yeah, 25 years.
And where did you sell real estate prior to Columbus, Ohio?
Probably the only worst market, and that's in East Lansing, Michigan.
Yep, that's right. Well, now you say Columbus, Ohio, but so for the sake of referrals, you and your staff will obviously sell a home anywhere or list a home anywhere in Columbus, Ohio, but you specifically focus on a particular area, correct?
That's correct, yes. We sell on the New Albany, Gahanna, Westerville, Bexley, Grandview, really the east side, and the high. We have really been focusing on the high end, although we are, I will say, with this market shifting that a bit.
Okay, so if someone wanted to send you a referral, and I'm going to ask you to give your information a couple of times during this call, how would they do that?
they would send it to me at sandyrains@yahoo.com.
Okay.
And that would be the best way of all.
And that goes directly to you?
It does.
Okay, perfect. All right, sandyrains@yahoo.com, and Rains is spelled Raines. Okay,
correct.
Great. So your market, you were talking about sort of the east side of Columbus, and your market, what's that market doing? Tell us about what you're experiencing right now.
Well, the market has gone down about 20% over last year, if not more. I will say that 2009 really caught me by surprise because we had a wonderful 2008, and the market just stopped. People just quit buying.
20% down. 20% down
Yep.
In terms of sales or values?
Values.
So you saw properties drop in value by 20% in what period of time?
Really, the fourth quarter and the first part of 2009, fourth quarter 2008.
So was that across the board in all price ranges or just the upper end?
Well, my average sale price this year is $385. For Columbus, it's $168. So I am in a higher price point. And then, of course, I've personally sold a lot over $1 million, and that over $1 million, we have an 8.5 years inventory right now.
Okay, so I want to say this just so everyone's really clear on that.
You just said years, right? Not
yeah,
months.
you said years.
I said years. Yeah,
sure.
Well, first of all, some people are going to be surprised that there's actually quite a few, or were anyway, quite a few homes in Central Ohio valued over $1 million. I mean, they're at its peak, Sandy. How many houses in that price range were selling per year, say in 06 or 07?
06 or 07, probably in New Albany alone, there were probably 15, but across Columbus, I honestly don't know, but it's just dropped dramatically. I'm in Powell, one of the nice areas here. There's not been one sale over $1 million all year. And there are a lot of homes up there. Over $1 million.
Aside from all the usual things that we know about, in your particular market, is there anything that's adversely affecting the market? Is there any reason to believe, why, in your opinion, has there been such a slowdown on a micro level? Any particular reason?
Yes, because our major companies right in Columbus we've had Victoria's Secret, Bath & Body, The Limited, Abercrombie, Tween Brands was just sold to Dress Barn. We had a huge hit in the retail market. Longenberger's, they're not doing well. So just that retail market has been hit, and there are a lot of people losing their jobs or leaving to go to areas of the country that are more profitable.
So you're having to very quickly move from, you mentioned you're focusing on a lesser expensive price range. Why are you doing that?
Because those are the ones that's selling. With these first-time home buyers, they're in the $8,000 tax credit. We're seeing some activity in that price point, and that's really where the activity is in sales.
And financing, obviously. What's the FHA loan limit in Columbus? What is it now?
I believe it's $349.
So $349 really, and you mentioned your average sale prices, right, is underneath that, so that's probably something you did consciously, right, focusing on where people can actually get financing. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Okay, good. So as far as like the sellers that are upside down sellers being something, that we're seeing, it's sort of become a national epidemic. You're seeing that, I assume, probably a majority of the time now, with especially there being 20% loss in values?
Yes, it's shocking. It's terrible. We have almost anyone that's in the high end is losing. I just put one in contract. He's lost $800,000 on his house over 3 years.
So this is something interesting that all of us are dealing with, obviously, in the real estate market, and it's especially, I would think, challenging when you're dealing with some of these high-powered executives, because what folks need to know about your marketplace, and really what you're, I think, probably best known for, Sandy, is you have a niche inside this sort of exclusive country club area that was made up of executives from some of the, biggest retail brands in the nation. So these people are used to getting what they want the way they want it, not being they don't know what no means, and so you have to then go on there and tell them that they're losing in some cases $800,000 on a house. How do you do it?
Well, I ask questions. I'm always asking questions, and probably the one thing that I continually finding myself saying today is, so I understand what you're saying. What are you going to do if your house doesn't sell? And then they'll tell me, well, I'm just not giving it away. And I understand that I'm not asking you to give it away, but what are you going to do if it doesn't sell? And if they say that they're going to stay there till the market returns, great, and you're willing to stay there in there 4 to 5 years, as that makes sense financially if you had a bad stock. And so we're just giving lots of things for them to think about. But at the end of the day, with the high-powered executives, they have to be the one that makes the decision. If I tell them I'm nowhere, it doesn't work. They cut me off.
You're leading them to that self-discovery through questions. You're not basically just saying this is how it is. You're kind of walking them through the process of emotionally accepting the fact that this has been a horrible investment for them.
The other thing I'm doing that I actually just got a call yesterday. I thought he was going to drive me crazy, and he came back and wanted to do a $25,000 price reduction. He's president of a bank. And I said, you know what? It's not going to help. You're not getting any showings. You're not getting any second showings. The market's rejected your price. $25,000, let's not bother. And a week later, he called me and did $100,000 because he had time to think about it.
Well, so let's walk through that again. I assume you used a script when what you just said. You're telling me that you turned a seller down for a price change that you knew would make no bit of difference. Why didn't you just accept the lesser price change and then go back later? Why did you not allow him to lower it $25,000 or counsel him away from doing that?
Well, because first of all, I know that the first price reduction is the toughest one to get, and you have to go for something that's going to make a difference. If I had let myself give in and get $25,000, it would have been months before I could have gotten him to any place that was going to make a difference, and I knew it wouldn't. So I gambled, but I realized that $25,000 wasn't worth the effort, and I was shocked, actually. He's one of my more stubborn sellers. We all have them. And his message was, well, my wife says I've been a little too stubborn. So yesterday we actually did take it down, and we've got a showing already today. And I told him, one of the scripts I use, we have to go from a good price to a great price if we want to be one of the one or two buyers that are going to even look at your house. There's 42 houses on our market over $1 million. And there's 1 to 2 a month selling. What are we going to do to make yours one of the top 2?
So how are you pricing? When you're going into these situations, let's say you you have a listing appointment today. I know that you're sharp on time.
I do.
So you have a listing appointment, and obviously we're not talking at a church here. Is this seller losing money that you're meeting with today?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I assume it's a fairly decent size amount of money that they're losing, not $5, more like probably $50,000 plus?
Oh, yeah. It's probably $150 without commissions, and they lost their job, so they're paying for it themselves.
Okay, so this sounds to me like it's a short sale client, basically.
Yes.
It might very well be.
It's possible. Mm-hmm.
So has this seller, are you walking into this situation without the seller knowing that they're this far upside down?
They are hoping they can get what they paid for, but there's no way.
So you're going on a listing appointment. So how do you prepare for a listing appointment like that? This is a seller that is probably somewhere in the back of their minds realizing that they're upside down, but you're walking into a situation where you have to tell people a whole bunch of bad news on top of the fact that they've already received bad news from having lost their jobs. How do you go about doing that?
Well, I ask questions. One of the questions, how familiar are you with the condition of today's real estate market?
Mm-hmm.
And, then I'm sure the market's changed. The number of homes for sale has made the market much more competitive. Prices are down. Good news, there's still buyers purchasing. And then I go for the general overall Columbus area. Right now in their particular price range, there's 201 homes for sale. And the good news is in the last 30 days, there's 12 buyers actually purchased a home. How many does it take to buy yours? And 1, right? So sort of start positive. And then I talk about the different kinds of sellers that there are out there, sellers buying another home because they're in the best situation. They're not taking their equity out of the market altogether. They're going to be able to buy their next home at the same discount, so they're not losing the money. They're just moving their equity. So I talk about the seller who's buying a more expensive home, and that's the best situation of all because the higher-end homes tend to lose value faster, and so with the correction, they're going to have instant equity. And then someone cashing their equity out, of course, is they have to decide whether they want to wait 3 or 4 or 5 years for better prices to return and watching prices continue to drop, or the ones that can't sell at all, they can't cash out because they don't have enough, and that's your short sale. And then I talk about in their general market. So this particular seller has their 28 homes in their price range, 800 to 1.2 million, in their direct community. So, and I talk about the number of buyers are buying each month and the number year to date that have sold. So right now we're looking at 2 to 3 buyers a month that are going to purchase a home. There's 28 on the market. So what are we going to do to position you to be one of the top 2 or 3?
So here's what I heard from everything you've said so far in this interview. You go right back to the numbers. You jump right back on the facts and the statistics. You do not mince around. You go right to questions, and basically you're educating them. You're helping them self-discover their answers, their own questions through your questions. But you're also backing up the thinking with hard, cold facts. So is that how long have you been using numbers like this and statistics, and how big of a difference, knowing your numbers in your market, has that been to your business?
Huge. In fact, as I said, the first quarter of this year, I was sort of caught flat-footed and realized the biggest single thing I had to do is, first of all, go out and get price reductions. And once I got the current inventory priced well, I started making some sales, and then going out and getting listings, which is what this one will be, that's priced right so it can sell quickly.
You're using scripts, right? I mean, you are using...
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's something that, it's interesting, Sandy. I know that you've been in the business for a long time and obviously highly successful. People don't realize how honest-to-God scripted top producers are. You probably are saying literally the same 5 or 6, 10 scripts every single day, dozens of times, but they're just scripts. That's all they are, correct?
Right. That's absolutely right, yes.
When you pick up the phone, when someone calls you, and you pre-qualify them using a script, right?
I have the script right in front of me.
That's right. So is there any aspect of your business where you're winging it, where you don't know ahead of time what you're going to say? Do you ever walk into a situation where you're not using a script?
I would like to say 100% of the time, but the times that I don't do it, I'm always sorry.
Why? That's interesting.
Because if I don't use a script, let them sort of take control. I sort of follow them along, and I've learned that I have to be in control and confident going in this kind of market. It's like going to a doctor and you've got cancer. You want a doctor that's very confident that he can take care of you and do better than anyone else, take care of this bad situation.
When do you think your market will level off? And let me give them a little bit of background on Columbus, Ohio. This is something, Sandy, that every time we talk to realtors in any of the bubble markets, they don't understand that places like Columbus, Ohio never had a run-up in values. There never was 6, 7, 10, 20% a year appreciation in Columbus, Ohio. But yet Columbus, Ohio is having to suffer the depreciation. That's what the people across the country don't understand that, and that's the reason that Julie and I say this, but if you want to meet a good realtor, frankly, one of the best realtors in the country, go to Ohio, go to Indiana, go to Illinois, go to the states where they've never been able to sell off the idea of a house being a great investment and appreciating. They've had to learn skills. Like when you're listening to Sandy, guys, I know some of you in California and Arizona and Florida are like saying, oh my gosh, this lady, she's like a different level. And she is. Midwest top-producing realtors, they had to be this good, and they're getting better. So, Sandy, you're dealing with a market that never had a run-up but it's having a run-down, so you're probably dealing every day with sellers that you sold houses to 5, 6 years ago that are losing money. We can kind of shift into the mindset stuff, but how do you help the sellers get over that, ego-wise?
Well, what I tell them is, I wish that I was selling this for you 3 years ago. You'd love me right now. But unfortunately, we're not. We have to deal with the reality. Do you want me to be honest with you today? And they'll always say yes. And so when they say that, I have to tell you that you can look around. You listen to the news, don't you? It's not a good situation, and I'm here to help you through it.
Gotcha.
Another thing I've said to them is, I actually had one seller. It was really tough. They paid cash for a $1.8 million house, October 2008. And he almost backed out. I had to resell him on it. So October 1st, 08, he paid $1.8 million. He came back and they never moved in. Their plans changed, and he said, I need you to sell this for me in the spring when things had really, that last quarter and the first part of the year, just terrible. So we're now at 1,599. But he wasn't too happy. And I said, as he was leaving, we talked through it, and I said, one thing I had someone say to me last week was that we can't take credit when the market goes up, and we can't be blamed when it goes down. I'm here to help you through this, and together we'll get through it.
Again, another script.
Mm-hmm, yes.
Yeah, perfect. So, you don't have a crystal ball. Nobody does. I'm just sort of curious at your opinion now, especially for all of our Midwesterners that are listening. When do you think, or do you think there'll be a leveling off of the market sometime? What's your prediction as to what's going to happen in real estate, your market, next 3 to 5 years? What are you seeing? I heard you say
I see 4 to 5 years before we see it really leveling off much.
Okay, what does that mean?
And for it to come back, it's hard to know, because in the Midwest, I tell people real estate's like a golf swing. When prices go up, they go up real slow. When they come down fast. And we're in we're in a declining market, and I don't know how low it's going to go, but I know one thing: the sooner we get it sold, the better off you're going to be.
Another script. I love it. So here's the thing: in markets like Columbus, Sandy, there are housing areas that might not ever come back.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a new paradigm for real estate. The fact that, hey, guess what? A house can depreciate, you can lose value on it, and it might not ever reappreciate. There's definitely situations that where sellers, frankly, just like Sandy said, are way better off getting out of the market now and maybe just sitting on the sidelines for a year or two to see what's going to happen. So that's definitely tough. So let's move forward. You said you have a team, correct?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
All right, so how have you changed your team as a result of what you've been experiencing in your marketplace? First of all, tell us who you've got working for you, kind of what they do, and how you've changed in the past 6 to 12 months.
Well, I have 5 full-time buyer agents, 3 full-time administrative people, and 3 part-time. And I had to eliminate a full-time marketing position. We've cut hours for the administrative people because the market just has gotten soft, and we've had to make adjustments. We've had to make cuts.
So what are you not doing? Like, are you still doing all the frilly marketing things? Because you're working in an upper end market, and I'm sure that guy who's already lost $300,000 on his house, he is probably really attentive to how fancy his home brochure is, I'm guessing, right?
Well, here's my script for that one, and I've gotten really good at that. And there's 4 things that are going to cause any house to sell: price, condition, access to the property, and Mr. Seller, you control 3 of those. The last one is marketing and exposure to the market. That's my job. And so far this year, I've sold 68 houses. I know my market plans were in this economy, so I know my market plan's working.
So, Sandy,
now let's talk about.
Yeah, well, I want you to write an ad in the New York Times. I want you to do this. I want you to, have the Goodyear blimp fly over my house, dropping leaflets about my home brochure over the golf course. You get that, I'm sure. How do you overcome the sellers that's trying to basically get you to spend your money?
Well, honestly, when I use that script and say, I know my market plan's working. It's working better than anyone else's. I'm selling more than anyone. We've got to look at the other 3 factors. Condition, is there anything else we have to do to your house? The price, do we need to adjust it to make it more marketable? Or if there's been problem. And usually I start with the things like condition. We've done everything, haven't we? Is there anything else you think we need to do there? No. Access to the property. You've been okay with every showing, haven't you? Yes, we've let everyone in. Great. So that only leaves us with one thing: price. I did have a seller recently call. She said, well, I don't see it because I have quit newspaper advertising totally. And she said, well, I don't see your ad in the paper, and I see everybody else's. And I said, exactly. I said, that's an outdated way of marketing. If I'm selling more than anyone else, why would I spend money on that when I know that it's not working?
That's right.
These other people don't, so she came around very quickly, and she dropped it.
Well, so what I'm hearing you say, what the beauty of the script you used was what you do is you move them away from, the old, Julie and I used to call it, what have you done lately for me call, when you get this good, you know what I'm talking about, the old Janet Jackson song, right?
Right.
The seller calls up and, for whatever reason they might have had a bad day, so it's like, what have you done for me lately? And what you're doing is you're moving them away from that and you're saying, okay, well, let's not talk about what I've done. Let's talk about the price. And so you train them that if they ever decide to basically start trying to push you around, the conversation's going to go talking about their price, which I'm going to guess makes it so they don't try to push you around again, correct?
Right, yeah. This has been an amazing script. I've loved using that one.
Okay, good.
Well, Sandy, I have a good question that just came in over the webinar from Carol in San Jose. She says, what does Sandy do when the seller just doesn't get it? Do you fire them? What happens if you're using the best scripts in the world and they're just not coming along with you? What do you do?
Well, I mean, I am tenacious, so I don't fire many, and I've been told I should fire more. But I believe, just like this bank guy a week ago that was going to do 25 and I wouldn't do it, I thought about all week calling and saying, firing him. And then he called me. So I think you have to not overreact and just get clear with your message and be calm. Mr. Seller, this isn't about me. This is about you. Tell me, what are you going to do if your house doesn't sell? What's going to happen if it doesn't sell? Are you going to just stay? If they were to finally come around to, I'm not going to sell, then of course, you're going to say, great, I'd rather part as friends and go for it. Not every listing is going to sell.
Rather turn you down now than let you down later. The old Diana Kokoska line. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's beautiful. All right, good. So I want to move towards talking about mindset because I know that's really important. Just a couple we had some other interesting questions come in. I'll just ask you this one because I know you've got a great answer for this one. So someone asked, how do you deal with, and I know you've got buyer agents. How many buyer agents do you have, by the way?
I have 5 full-time.
Okay, so how do you deal or train them to deal with the buyer that says, I want a deal? Because you have to be hearing that all the time.
Yes, of course we do. And of course, Mr. Buyer, we're going to do just that for you. Tell me exactly what you want, and I'm going to find it for you. And by the way, Mr. Buyer, if we get out tomorrow and we find exactly the right house for you, are you prepared to write an offer on it?
And based on their question, you move forward. Their answer.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Right. That's it. So the other thing is you probably are also asking them what their definition of quote-unquote a good deal is, right?
Actually, what I do, if it's me personally, I tell my buyer agents the same thing. When I'm out, I'm constantly qualifying as they look at houses. And then when I get excited and say, this is it. Look at this house. It's got this, this, and this that you wanted. So you had to have listened to what they told you. I mean, this is a great deal. Interest rates are the lowest they've ever been. We know the market's down. What have you got? I mean, we got to do something here. I wouldn't want you to lose this. And usually with my enthusiasm and just continually reinforcing to them, this is what they're looking for, is what they've told me, usually I can get them to take action.
Going back to the initial stages, when you had that buyer originally show up on your system, you were asking them questions, you were pre-qualifying them, they were following a specific system. I assume there was also a buyer presentation that was given at some point where they committed to work with you. So this is all a system. What I'm hearing is basically, and hopefully a lot of you are understanding, the reason that Sandy's so successful, one of the main reasons is this: we're talking to an entrepreneur, a business person here who happens to own a sales business. The way she's talking and the way she thinks is like a business owner first and the salesperson second. All right, great. So here's an interesting question. Someone else just asked this. Your main marketing channels, what do you do for lead generation? What are like the top 2 or 3 ways that you generate leads?
Absolutely. My website has become unbelievable. We are actually paged when someone goes in our website. We have a campaign with a vendor that has been extremely successful. We have 478 leads that have come through that system. And if anybody wants more information on that, just email me at sandyrains@yahoo.com. That's been unbelievable. Our web activity is phenomenal. We use an IVR system, an 800 call. And one of the things I will say with that is not only do I use that for my buyer agents and getting buyers, but I use it in all of my listing presentations because it shows them that I do run this like a business and I track everything. It's another way to get it off the marketing thing. I told them
Yep. If you guys want to, well, exactly. And what she's talking about now is something you all should be doing, especially in this market. As a lot of you start taking more and more listings, you will have sellers that oftentimes are going to be doing the "what have you done lately for me" calls and asking about ads and marketing and yada yada. Mm-hmm. And as Sandy was just saying, one of the greatest ways to show them what's working, what's not, is attach all of your ads to an IVR, an 800 number, and the one we suggest is 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com, 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. So check that out, and you will learn more on the site. All right, great. So if you, as far as you mentioned your website, right? So what are the if there was number 2 and 3 where you get, so you do really good at networking. You are focused on people contact. That has to be one of your main lead generators, correct?
Yes, absolutely. My business comes from my website, relocation, center of influence, past client referrals, actually other agent referrals. I get a tremendous amount of business from other agents around the country as well.
Okay, so I'm not hearing marketing and advertising. I'm not hearing. No. Okay, so your business is still fundamentally rooted in the more traditional ways to generate leads, and you're starting to get more from internet marketing. That's what I'm hearing, correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
So if you could only pick one thing, Sandy, everything else you had to set by the wayside, and you could only do one thing to generate leads, what would it be?
If I could only do one thing, it would be picking up the phone and calling people, asking for business.
Who would you call?
My past clients, my center of influence would be first. Then I'd call expireds and for sale by owners.
Okay, there you go. And that's definitely how we coach every single realtor to start their business because, guys, it's free. And for the most part, it's very effective. You obviously, I'm sure, well, Sandy, you're using scripts when you're calling these folks, I assume, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you know your center of influence past client script off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, let me just grab it, because as I tell you, when I'm sitting here, I always have it in front of me. It makes it so much easier for me. So, yeah, hi, Tim. This is Sandy with the Raines Group. How are you?
I'm doing great, Sandy. Good to hear from you.
Oh, wonderful. I'm sorry it's been so long, but you know how life gets. Tim, the reason I'm calling is that I wanted to get the word out that there are really a lot of purchasers in the market right now. Do you know anyone that's talking about a move?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, not off the top of your head. Well, there are probably 30 people who purchased a home in the last 30 days alone. Anybody in your family or at work or anyone that you can think of that might want to buy?
Not really, but if I do come across anybody, I'll certainly keep you in mind.
What about anybody in your neighborhood that has a house that's not selling? We're having great results getting our houses sold.
Well, that would be about every third house that's not selling, Sandy, so that one's easy.
Great. Well, if you could do me a favor and give them, I can't call them, but if you could give them my name and number, I'd really appreciate it because, as you know, I can get it sold for them.
So, guys, here's what you hopefully are picking up from what she said. First of all, she went multiple layers deep. She went 2, then 3 layers deep asking for referrals. But did you also notice that she was repeating and affirming everything I was saying? So as soon as the seller, or I was her past client in that scenario, as soon as I said something, she repeated what I said, and she did that so that I, as her past client, would know that she was listening. She was doing that intentionally because she obviously makes tons of calls like this. And you're saying, Sandy, in your business, if you could only do one thing, that would be it, and that's what's most effective for you.
Yes.
So if you, for example, wanted to take 20 listings in the month of August, you could sit down with that script, with your list, and you could, with enough time, find 20 listings. You're that confident?
Yes.
Why don't you do it?
In fact, that's interesting you'd say. That's my goal for August.
There you go.
My goal this month is to get my prices down, and it's absolutely worked. I've taken 24 price reductions, and I have 22 properties in contract, and so next month I'm going to take 25 new listings.
Beautiful. I'm sure you'll do it. So, Sandy, you mentioned at the top of this call the importance of surrounding yourself with people that have a positive, powerful mindset. And we did a pre-call today, and you and I talked through something that I think was an absolutely brilliant thing to share with our listeners today. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, one of the things that I personally find makes a huge difference is applying the law of attraction to my life deliberately and learning to get more of what I do want and less of what I don't want. So when you're getting something you don't want, you have to say to yourself, how can I change the vibration when I know I'm sending out a negative one? And I like to use the concept of a reset button. You know, is it financial? Are the clients I'm getting? What part of my life am I not getting what I want? And like any reset button, you use it when you want to change something. So pick something and say, okay, I want to change this right now. And you start changing your vibrations by resetting your thoughts and simply resetting your words. So what I would say to everybody right now is if I said, don't think about the Statue of Liberty, you just did. And the universe doesn't recognize the words don't, not, and no. So when you put that negative energy out there, you just get more of the same. So the minute you give attention, focus, and energy to what you don't want, you're sending out a negative vibration. You can change your results when you change your words. So when you say to yourself, I don't want any bad clients anymore, you say to yourself, and stop. What do I want? So what I've done with my team, we just did it again this week, and I have this worksheet, and if you email me, I'll send it to you. It's clarity through contrast. List of the things you don't like. So on mine this particular week, I put I don't like negative clients. Let me just find where I have this. I don't want bad clients. I don't want looky-loos. I don't want low appraisals. I don't want to lose listings. And so then you say, so what do I want? I want wonderful, motivated clients that can afford to buy and sell and make good decisions quickly. I want clients that are ready to buy and ready to cut their losses and sell. I want to attract abundance and success and great financial compensation. I want all of my appraisals to come in right where they need to be. I want my transactions to close easily and smoothly. I want my listings to price their homes where they'll sell and they're happy and appreciate me and send referrals to me. So what I'd say is when you make your list of what you don't want, that's very easy for people. Usually people have a hard time saying, okay, what do I want? We all know what we don't want. And making that list, you'll see, and what I would say is you want to feel. The feeling is really key. What does it feel like when I say what it is I do want? And you're going to watch your energy shift, and the universe will respond to that.
Take us through that exercise, right? So I'm a realtor. I'm listening. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm hearing nothing but negative news every day about, my brokerage is losing agents and my this and the that and the sky is falling and the world is coming to an end. So if I'm that realtor, how can I use these exercises that you just walked us through?
Okay. So I want you to write down 3 words. I want you to write down don't, not, and no.
Okay. Everyone, I hope
you have to eliminate those 3 words from your vocabulary and actually sort of make it as something that you immediately recognize when you're saying those words, because those are leading you towards negative vibrations. So what I want you to put then at the top of your paper, so what do I want?
Okay. Hope everyone's doing this exercise.
And then under contrast, list the things you don't like. So I have overpriced listings as one of mine. Difficult sellers. Buyers who take too long to buy. Buyer agents that don't follow through with leads.
I've had about 30 people on the webinar ask us for that form. Is there any way I can get that so I can put it on the blog?
Yes, I'll email it to you.
Okay. Yeah. And guys, so this will be on the blog. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then on the to have clarity, so that's contrast, and clarity, list of the things that you would like. I'd like lots of listings at great prices. So take each one of the things you don't want and turn it into what you do want. Because when you do that, the energy changes.
How do your actions change with the law, what we're talking about now, with the law of attraction? How do your actions change? Like you are teaching your buyer agents and your staff how to go through this exercise, and I know this is very important to you. So when you've taught someone else this, Sandy, how have you seen their actions change?
What starts to happen is their energy shifts. They feel better. Their expressions look better. And we actually talk about it in meetings. What kind of buyers do you want? And would it be nice to attract more of them? And then we go around the room with wins from the past week. Anybody that's had a win and where they've done this and they can see how all of a sudden they put out there they wanted sellers that listed with great prices. Yeah, I got this listing. Not only did you price $30,000 less than the other people were telling her, we sold it in a week. And then, so that, again, creates energy in the room. So everybody can feel what that feels like and walk out feeling better.
Have you ever shared this exercise with any of your sellers?
Yes, I absolutely have. In fact, I'm glad you asked that, because my favorite thing to say that is we're going to concentrate only on one thing, and it's SS. Your house is going to sell soon, and they always get a big smile on their face when I say it. I want you to write that down. It's going to SS. It's going to sell soon. Every time you start to think about this house, it's going to sell soon. And I want you to put it on your mirror. I want you to put it posted in your car, on your every place you can think of, and under your pillow, put a little sign that says it's going to sell soon. And if you focus on that, we're going to attract just the right buyer here quickly.
So
it gives them hope.
You've had to become an excellent realtor, a smart business lady, obviously, and a great salesperson, but you've also had to learn how to become almost their personal life coach in some of these cases with your sellers and such. You've had to actually learn how to teach others so they can psychologically work through the stresses and strains that this market's putting on so many people. Is that something that how did you go about making that determination and that shift?
You know, it's interesting. My mother taught me real estate back when I started in '84. She was my broker, and she was always that way. My grandmother was that way, always be positive. So I knew what that was like. And then when The Secret came out recently, I got goosebumps when I watched that movie, because it's what I had been taught my whole life. And I realized when I showed it to other people or talked about it, it was new to them, but it could make such a difference in their lives as well. So then I started sharing it with sellers.
Sandy, it may have come out recently in Ohio, because Ohio is like 5 years behind the rest of the country, but that came out like 5 years ago. I don't want to,
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm not making fun of Sandy because we're from Ohio too, but it is possible that the DVD did take 5 years to get there, I suppose. But
no, we actually did watch it when it came out, but yeah. I've gone back to it. I, like everyone else, sort of went into shock when the market shifted and my stock portfolio dropped, and so it's what's really turned things around for me.
Yeah, it's interesting how your past experiences, Sandy, you mentioned your mom, you mentioned in our pre-call you talked about different things. It's interesting how all of your past life experiences are all sort of making sense now, and how you're able to use all those things to help other people. That's kind of an interesting position you find yourself in, isn't it?
It is. Very interesting.
Yeah, and so as far as real estate now, as far as how you feel about real estate, you're focusing a lot on your mindset, and yet the other side of it is you're seeing your business has dropped a little bit. You're having to let people go. You're having to cut hours. As far as the future for you in real estate in the next 3 to 5 years, do you have any specific plans, goals, or are you just sort of taking it 1 month at a time right now?
Well, what I'm doing, with the webs things that I'm doing and the lead generations for buyers, I know that I'm also working on getting listings that are priced really great, and that is helping. So really just learning how to be, just changing with the market, which I actually love. To me, when I'm learning new things, I'm my happiest. And I learned that from my mother.
That's the vibe I'm getting from you. You don't seem scared. You don't seem like you're putting your head in the sand and waiting for the clouds to clear and the market to somehow return. You recognize, Sandy, and I hope I'm getting this right, you recognize that this is a market about opportunity. You're focusing on what's next. You're not necessarily worrying about what's now. It sounds like that to me.
Exactly.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, that's true.
So guys, listen, on the webinar, ask questions, all right? So ask your questions, put them all in. Had some questions come in. Jane from Michigan, does Sandy have a good time management schedule? There's a great question.
Well, that's one of the areas I could improve on. I have to be honest. Every time I sit down and I'm looking at what is it I need to do, I want to follow an ideal day. That's the one area that I let myself get sidetracked. If someone calls with a listing call, I sort of rearrange my day, and I know I shouldn't. But so having an ideal day where I get up, get some exercise, do mindset activities, and then I do my prospecting. On my ideal day, I do my prospecting in the morning, and then appointments in the afternoon, and role play in the morning as well.
So as far as do you have an actual schedule? I'm sure that's posted someplace on the wall for your ideal day. Do you mind sharing that with the group?
Oh, not at all.
Okay, so this is Sandy's ideal day. Write this one down and create your own. And what you're going to probably hear, actually I know you're going to hear, is Sandy's ideal day is focusing on doing what matters most first.
That's right.
Do you have your schedule?
Exactly. Oh, you want me to? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so I get up at, okay. I thought you wanted me to send it to you.
No.
I get up at 6:30, and I work out from 7 to 8. 8 to 8:30, I get ready and eat a healthy breakfast. 8:30 to 9, I do my role play. And from 9 to 11, I prospect. And 11 to 12, I take a mindset break, eat lunch, and then I go on appointments in the afternoons.
Do you set your prospecting time around? Now, this isn't the ideal. Well, okay, so let's just. This is your real estate confessional. How many days of the week do you stick to that schedule?
Well, I'd like to say my goal is to stick to that 4 out of 5 days. To do that 5 days in a row, I'm not that person, but my goal is to do, I feel like I've had a good week when I do 4 out of 5 days.
Absolutely. So, okay, that's your goal, is to stick to it 4 out of 5 days. All right, so this next question is a tough question. Guys, listen, on the webinar, enter your questions and whatever you have for Sandy. I'm using most of them. Oh, okay, someone just wants me to, Sherry, I'll give you Sandy's contact information at the end of the call. All right, so guys, this is the next question. This is one I ask periodically. This is sort of something that's designed to get you to think. It's also interesting how much it reveals as far as what your true intention is. So if you knew for sure that the real estate market, the economy, everything else was going to be 100% worse, things were going to get far worse, and then say 6 months from now, you and I jumped in the time machine. We're 6 months, December, January 2010, and we're looking back, and we realize, holy tamale, things are way worse. What 3 things would you be doing differently now?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I actually think that it's going to be that. I think it will be worse in January, so it is what I'm doing now. I've gotten more aggressive about price reductions. Most important thing I can do that's going to put more money to my bottom line is getting these houses sold now.
Are you doing
not sort of the wait and see?
Are you doing pre-arranged when you take the listing? And we'll go back, guys, to her other 2 things. But with regards to price reduction, since that's a recurring theme on this call, are you doing pre-written, pre-authorized price reductions with your sellers?
To be honest with you, it's a good idea. I have not done it.
Okay.
So that may be something I will incorporate, but I have not done it, because I work really hard to get it priced right from the start now.
Right, but obviously with a deteriorating market and with you anticipating things getting... By the way, are you telling sellers that you anticipate things getting far worse?
Yes.
Okay. So again, guys, as I said at the top of this call, you're hearing from Sandy, and the reason that Julie and I love this lady is because she's honest, she's ethical, she's hardworking, but at the same time, she is the very definition of the velvet hammer. She's going to give it to you straight, and for some reason, it's not going to hurt that bad. So what other 2 things would you do differently if you knew for sure, or if you at least had the mindset that, things were going to get far worse in the economy? Obviously, we're not talking about your thinking or your intentions or anything like that.
Well, I just want to add one thing in there that may say to sellers that may help with the price reduction, and that is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I know $1,299 sounds horrible to you, but you're going to hate it even worse in a few months if I have to come back and get $999.
Yeah, of course, she's talking about 1.3 versus $1 million, guys. So again, Sandy's dealing with upper end stuff in Columbus and those conversations. Wow, so that's a big price change, right? A $300,000 price change. That's definitely.
Well, no, if this gentleman that was giving me a hard time from going from 1,399 to 1,299, he wanted to go to 1,375. So I said, I know 1,299 is tough to hear, but you're going to hate it even worse in a few months when I have to call you and tell you $999.
Gotcha. Okay, so I heard you say
that helps added motivation.
The first thing you're doing now is you're being very attentive and focused on aggressive price changes. You're not compromising. The sellers, guys, will always try to negotiate with you for some unknown reason. They think that, we'll split it down the middle, or Sandy's asking me to drop it $50,000, so I'll give her $25,000. That's mentally and emotionally how a lot of these sellers think they're supposed to operate. And you heard Sandy say during this call she'll actually turn them down, and she uses an iteration of the script. Mr. Seller, I'd rather turn you down now than let you down later. So what would be the second thing that you'd be doing, Sandy, if you knew for sure that things were going to get far worse?
Believe it or not, I would increase my listing inventory.
Good. Tell us about that. Why?
I would increase my listing inventory because it's going to increase my buyers' calls, and I would make sure, but I would only take a listing if I knew they were 100% motivated. Motivation is the first thing I look at. I want someone that has to sell that house no matter what.
Absolutely, positively has to sell, no question. There's no and ifs or buts. There's no, well, we can just rent it out or we'll wait for the market to change or whatever else. Has to sell.
Exactly.
Okay,
has to sell.
Right,
most important.
You have how many listings now? How many listings do you have now?
I have 70 listings now, and I want 100 by September.
Okay, so she has 70 listings, and she wants to increase that to 100. Guys, this is how a top producer thinks. And obviously, she's assuming that the overall days on the market's going to extend. So by increasing the number of listings she has, she basically levels out the odds and the ratios of her stuff selling, and she'll then get obviously a lot more buyer calls. So what would be the third thing?
Increasing the prospecting, picking up the phone. Actually, what I have started doing is the accountability and doing face-to-face, really tracking my face-to-face appointments rather than just my number of contacts. Because my goal is to get in front of someone I know I can't get a signature unless I'm looking at them.
Well, tell us about that. How are you increasing that? What are you doing proactively to increase your face-to-face?
I'm calling more, calling expireds, calling more people, center of influence, and asking for appointments.
Okay, so you're proactively going out there, you're calling, you're setting listing appointments. Now, Sandy, you and I talked a little bit about prior to the call the fact that you are consciously and deliberately going to start going after, obviously, sellers that other realtors don't know how to serve, and that would be the short sales and things of that nature, right?
Right, that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, in your marketplace, if you were to decide to turn down short sales or have an attitude that I'm not going to do them, how much business would that eliminate? How many sellers? Like half? More?
Not half, but I would say in my market, I would say 25% are short sales.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. And if you're right, and if we're right, that the prices are going to continue to deteriorate, you're going to see that number grow significantly, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Are you making a shift, or are you doing any sort of positioning of yourself or your team as someone who has this specialized knowledge? Because I know you're in the Agent Short Sale Secrets coaching program, and I know you guys are in the Agent REO Secret. So what are you doing to promote your ability to offer more than just traditional real estate services?
Well, we have a letter that we send out to people when we can see that they haven't been up on their payments. We are calling on lenders that we're doing business with now, asking them for properties that they're having trouble, short sales and the foreclosure property. So really prospecting lenders.
Okay, prospecting
and account executives.
Yeah, very good. Or there was Julie, you heard this number with me this morning. Julie and I were working on another blog article, Sandy. And what was it, Julie? The 60-day lates. There was a new National Bankers Association study that came out that said there was 3 million nationwide.
3 million sitting there. They're at least 60 days late.
Wow.
And, 3 million.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to, when I hear crazy numbers like that, I like to picture what, if I was looking at 3 million people sitting in an audience, what would that look like? That's like a city worth of people. Isn't that crazy?
Well, but here's the statistic for everyone listening, and I know Sandy knows this. Depending on what you read or listen to, it's something like 95% of everyone, once they miss 2 payments, once they're 60 days late, something like 95% never do anything to catch the mortgage up. In other words, the house is then sold through short sale or through foreclosure, but the bottom line is it's headed towards a sale. So, guys, you're seeing, and Sandy said her number 2 thing. She said she's going to increase her listing inventory, and she's focusing on half to sells. Guys, hopefully you're getting something from this call and you're understanding. You might not want to sell hundreds of homes per year like what Sandy's been doing year in and year out for a long time. You might just want to sell 20 or 30. But what you've got to understand is the direction this market is headed. Heed this lady's advice. She's smart. She's one of the best realtors in the nation. Increase your inventory. One of the fastest ways to do that is focusing on the short sales, because there is no question there's going to be literally millions of sellers that need the listing services of agents that know how to do short sales. So, Sandy, looking forward, right? If we're going to look forward to 5 years from now, this is one of those think about typical end of interview questions. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
5 years from now, well, I'm getting to a stage where I'd like to slow down. So I'd like to continue. I have more control of my business, and I think it will be much stronger in 5 years. So I'd like to be still listing properties, not working with buyers so much, and maybe doing some coaching.
Ah, good. So we'll hire you. I already offered you a job once. I'm offering it to you again publicly now.
There you go.
So in about 24 months, when we put juice behind our graduate coaching program again, I'll offer you a job that you can't refuse. So guys, listen. I'm going to wrap the call up. Sandy's got to go on a listing appointment. Sandy, I really appreciate you taking the time today. I've been trying to get you as a superstar since last year because I knew you'd have a lot to offer. And again, hopefully this interview has inspired everyone and really gotten you to the point where you realize you can take some actions and you can have the same level of success that Sandy did. Notice the fact that Sandy doesn't wing it. She's using scripts with everything she's doing. She follows business systems with everything she does. Now, she hasn't developed and created all of this overnight. It's taken her, I'm sure, she's constantly tweaking and making things better and changing and getting rid of this and adding that. But guys, you now have heard directly from one of the nation's top producing realtors who is not planning on, putting her head in the sand. She is seeing this market as an opportunity to build, increase her business. So Sandy, I like to end these calls with the featured superstar sort of summarizing, kind of sending a message out there to the real estate ether. What is it that you'd like to say? And also, please let them know how they can get in contact with you. To all the other realtors out there that might be struggling, that might need a little bit of an inspirational kick in the butt.
I would say the things that you have to focus on this year are your mindset. It's just something you cannot afford to have a negative thought. You can't be around negative people. Focus on mindset. Think about what it is you do want every single day. 2, continually work on your skills. Skills is key. And 3, be accountable. Set that ideal day, be accountable so that you're really tracking what you're doing.
So, she summarized it perfectly. It all goes back to the fact that you have to focus on being an attentive business person, focusing on your goals, keeping your mind on things that are going to attract to you what you want. Julie keeps on reminding me, so I'll go ahead and mention it now. On the webinar, if you guys would like to join our new Agent Mindset Secrets class, that's a class that Julie and I are personally coaching, and that's starting in August. So Agent Mindset Secrets, a lot of you haven't heard about that class because we haven't been promoting it, but there it is. Hit the button if you'd like to join. And in the meantime, make sure all of you go and listen to our past superstar interviews at superstarinterviews.com or superstarinterviews.com, or you can obviously go to the blog at timandjulieharris.com for all the latest real estate information. So, Sandy, if someone wants to send you a referral, get in contact with you, how do they do it?
SandyRains@yahoo.com.
SandyRains@yahoo.com. There it is. Okay, so on behalf of Julie, myself, and all the faculty and staff of Harris Real Estate University, Sandy, I want to sincerely thank you for being today's superstar interview. This was personally one of my favorite interviews just because there was so much information given. You did it as I thought you would, like a velvet hammer. You are obviously somebody that's very scripted, very professional, and also very inspiring. So on behalf of Julie, myself, and all the faculty and staff of Harris Real Estate University, thank you for being this week's superstar.
Thank you, Tim. It's been my pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
Good luck
to everyone out there.
Thank
you. Appreciate that. Great. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.